Hi guys and welcome to Horologique, and today we're going to be reviewing the Zelos Skyraider V2 skeleton. But before we proceed, I would be very glad if you took 2 seconds of your time to subscribe to the channel. That would really help me a lot and I would be forever thankful. Thank you so much guys. Zelos is a micro brand out of Singapore, which has a very strong following, and the fans of this brand buy pretty much all of their models. The Skyraider Skeleton is maybe the top model for them, the most iconic model for the fans of this brand. I have had the V1, now the V2, and I wanted to share it with you guys to see what is so special about this watch. To let you know how special this watch it is, it goes for a premium. Not many watches go for a premium, but this one does go for a pretty substantial premium. I believe that it was $14,000 at release, and today the asking price is upwards of $2,000. So what is so special about this watch? I myself did a review of the V1, and that has been up to date my most watched review by far, even though it was at the beginning of the channel and I wasn't very skilled by then. I will put the link to that video right here because I want to embarrass myself. Alright, enough blah blah, let's proceed with the unboxing of this watch. I have already opened it. As you can see, I have had this watch for many months, but I have not worn it that much. So let's see. As you can see, the watch comes with the typical cigar box. This has been replaced by a smaller box in the present Zelos models, and you've got a little travel pouch in here, which is very nice. We'll see that later. Let's open the main box, and here you've got your typical travel roll, as those of you who are familiar with Zelos know by now. And you've got the warranty card. Here it is. I've got number 72. The watch is right here on this travel pouch. These you can put up to 4 watches. It's stamped Zelos, so very good. And here is the watch. So right from this view, maybe you can start to see why this watch is so beloved. Take a look at all those moving parts. We'll talk about this movement later, of course. It is a pretty old, pretty well known and pretty appreciated movement in the watch circles. But first, let's talk about the overall watch. And let's start with dimensions. You've got a 42 millimeters here. I'm just going to confirm with my calipers. Yes, 42. You've got a pretty slim, very slim, 10.6 millimeters in height. And you've got a 48.8 in lug to lug. So a pretty substantial watch, but not too large. I will do a wrist shot later so you can see how it fits my 6 3/4 inches wrist. This watch is all about that skeleton, that skeletonization. Here the plate and the bridges have been widely cut. I know you can see some skeleton watches with much less real skeletonization. Here you've got a lot of skeletonization, and maybe that is why this watch strikes so much. There is a lot of apparent empty space on that watch. And there are some differences with V1 here, especially about the finishing on those plates. The finishing is a vertical brushing when, if I remember correctly, it was bead blasted on the V1. Another difference, on the V1, the mainspring barrel was not skeletonized. It had a turbine pattern. Here it is fully skeletonized, showing that beauty. Let me show you right here how the mainspring rotates and folds on itself, ensuring that resistance in there. You can see the beauty, you can see all the parts working together there. I will put, of course, macro shots so you can see better, but you can see already that mainspring tensing on the skeletonized barrel. There's some attention to detail though to that skeletonization, with the anglage done pretty well to a very high standard on what appears to be a 45-degree angle. Very good again. You've got 2 Zelos logos in here, one to the right of what would be the dial and one to the left. So you remember that you've got a Zelos here. The special thing about a good skeleton is that it shows the beauty of this hobby that we love. We love the mechanics of it all, even though it's anachronistic, even though it's imprecise. What we love is these guys. the movement of these little parts, and here you can see them in full. Let's get to the movement so we can discuss those parts. The movement is the venerable ETA 6498. This movement has been around since the 50s, and it shows because it only has a frequency of 19,800, which is very low and very mid-century. As the specifications say here, this is a hand-wound movement. Again, very old school, and you've got a sapphire crystals, I would say. It is actually what you would call a sapphire sandwich, with sapphire in front and sapphire in the back. I will show you, however, in case you doubt, that you have got sapphire crystal here. See, we've got sapphire crystal here, of course, and we've got sapphire crystal at the back as well. Perfect. And that movement, you can see, of course, as I was talking to you before, the skeletonized barrel with the mainspring on it. The mainspring is what stores the kinetic energy that you give it by winding it. That kinetic energy is distributed to the different wheels of the mechanism, which are shown very clearly there. And those wheels control, among other, the hours and the minutes, and right here, the small seconds. But that is not all. How do you control and how do you ensure that the energy released from the mainspring is released continuously so you can have a constant flow? Well, you do that via the escapement, and it's that beautiful moving part that you can see in there. And I will, of course, show you some macros because this watch really deserves that. And there you can see another view of the movement, another view of the skeletonization, with, of course, the barrel, the mainspring barrel, which has been skeletonized radially, and the rays resemble those of the sun, which is very good and pretty hard to make, I believe. Again, this watch company showing its prowess. We talked about those specs before, those specs written around the sapphire crystal. Believe it or not, those specs are lumed. Yes, they are. I will show you the lume shot actually from the front. Yes, this watch has front and back lume, even though I agree with you, the legibility, it's not its strong point, and it will be more legible in the dark than actually in broad daylight. But it is not the point of a skeleton. A skeleton watch is there to give you an insight into the movement. As you see, everything about this watch is about that magnificent movement and skeletonization, but there is time to talk about the rest of the watch, of course. Around what remains of the dial, of the borders of the dial, you have got a rehaut, and you've got the graduations every 5 seconds, which helps a bit with the legibility of this watch when you actually have to read the time. The case is titanium, and there's no polishing here, it is all brushed. The brushing is circular around that very small bezel. The circular pattern of the brushing is continued on the top of the lugs, and I lied to you because there is a little polished part. The only polished part of this watch would be in the inner parts of the lugs. Let's not forget the crown. The crown is an onion style, I would say, but it's very much angular. Very much like the first version, but here there are some changes. It's a bit smaller, it's a little bit less protruding. This is a pretty good change, but it remains, however, grippy and big, because on a hand-wound watch, you're going to be hand-winding it very much, so you want that to be big. I am not certain, sorry, cannot say anymore, if this Horologique leather strap signed Zelos came with this watch or not. What I can tell you is that it's quick release and that is very, very good. What I can tell you though is that I have the original bracelet that has never actually been used. I have never used this bracelet in all these months because I did not find it all that attractive. It's a little too bulky. I don't believe there's barely any taper to it, I believe. So 22 to 20, so barely any taper in there. It is titanium, it is pretty well done. I believe it does have some kind of ratcheting, a few centimeters for you to micro adjust this watch to your wrist size. Very good and all, but I believe that this as a flieger looks much better on a Flieger style strap or on this vintage looking strap. Very beautiful, very well done. That's why I haven't even bothered with that bracelet in there. That's been it for the review of this beautiful Zelos watch, guys. I really hope you enjoyed that. Don't hesitate to comment to ask your questions. Don't hesitate to check the reviews of the other skeleton watches that I have made. I will leave the links in the description below and of course in the little cards here. Thank you again for having watched this video and I'll be seeing you very soon. Goodbye.